Okay, girls, so in this lesson, I'm going to give you like a hit list for answering oral questions. And it almost doesn't matter what the question is. If you go through this process, you'll probably find that you're able to answer the question is. Of course, you've got to relate it back to whatever the question is, right? But I'm going to give you a series of 5 questions to answer every time you make an observation in an oral exam. So here are the questions. We'll call them the Aural Hit List. You like that title? The Aural Hit List. Okay, question number 1. What is it? Question number 1, what is it? And this will make sense in a moment. Question number 2, what is it doing? Question number 2, what is it doing? Question number 3, what is its role? And we'll flesh these out as well so that you've got a better understanding of them. Question number 4 is, how does it sound? How does it sound? And question number 5 is, where did you hear it? Where did you hear it? So, question number 1, what is it? Question number 2, what is its role? Sorry, what is it doing? Question number 3, what is its role? Question number 4, how does it sound? And question number 5, what is it doing? In all of this, we're referring to instruments, right? To different instruments. What are the instruments of what? For example, what is it? It's a guitar. What is it doing? It's strumming. What is its role? It's got an accompaniment and so on. So we're going to flesh this out a little bit, right? With what is it, I want you to think of, if you can, name the instrument. What is it? Name the instrument. It's a guitar. If you don't know what the instrument is, what would be the next best thing?
What does it sound like? Wood instrument, wind instrument, string.
Okay, yeah, so think of instrumental families, all right? Name the instruments. So either name the instrument or work out what family it belongs to. Or, if you can't work out what family it belongs to, by listening, you know how you can kind of hear if an instrument's made out of wood or if it's made out of metal or something like that? So if you can't work that out, what materials do you think the instrument is made of? What materials do you think the instrument is made out of? Of course, the best option is name the instrument. For example, it's a guitar. If you can't work out it's a guitar, you might say, okay, it's a string instrument. And if you can't work out that it's a string instrument, you might hear that it's made out of wood or it's made out of metal or whatever, plastic, or it could be electronic. All right? And with the families, think of them this way. So we have string, woodwind, brass, percussion. With percussion, you have tuned percussion and you have untuned percussion. Does everyone know what I mean by tuned and untuned? Okay, tuned percussion is instruments like a xylophone, like a vibraphone, like a glockenspiel. And these are instruments that you can actually play a melody on. Untuned percussion are things like maracas and cymbals, where you hit them and they have a sound, but you can't play a song on them in terms of, you can't play a tune on them or a melody. Does that make sense? All right. So, name the instrument. If not, work out what family it belongs to. In addition to this, voices. So think of vocals, or voice, the voice family. And as well, think of electronic instruments. Right, especially with dance music or some of the contemporary music, it's got a lot of electronic components in the background. All right, so we have what is it? Name the instrument, work out what family it belongs to, what materials do you think the instrument is made from? Wood, plastic, metal, electronic, whatever. That's the first one. Let me move on. So the second question is, what is it doing? With what is it doing, describe how is it being played? How is it being played? For example, it might be strummed, it could be plucked, it could be bowed. That's with string instruments. It could be hit, shaken, scraped. Lots of different options, right? Depending on the instrument. But think of how is it being played, and you describe how that particular instrument, for example, I keep coming back to the guitar. If the guitar, is it being strummed with a rhythm pattern, or is it being plucked? So they're plucking individual notes. All right, that comes under what is it doing? What is it doing? Number 3, what is its role? What is the instrument's role? With roles, break them up into, and it does. If you don't get all of this down, it doesn't matter. I just want you to grab as much of it. Remember, I'm recording it for you. So, what is its role? For example, what are 2 roles that you could have? If I'm playing the piano, what's a role that the piano can do? Let's say there's a piano and there's a singer. Okay, so I could have a melodic role, or I can have an accompaniment role. They're the 2 main ones, right? Melodic or accompaniment. So think about it in terms of, is this providing a main melody, or is it meant to be in the background? You can have a song that's got multiple melodies, and you can have songs that have got lots of accompaniment.
So what's accompaniment?
Accompaniment is, you know, when you've got a singer and they've got a guitarist in the background, and the guitarist is just playing some strings, the guitar is accompanying the singer in the song. Yeah? Okay. How does it sound? Tone color. Tone color words. Like bright, sharp, resonant, booming.
Can you also write this down?
Yeah. Bright, clear, sharp, nasal, booming, aggressive. These are descriptive words. How do you spell aggressive? Is it double G? Double G, yeah. These are descriptive words. They're not the only ones. There's tons of them. But what you're doing is listening to something and going, okay, it sounds like this, by using words. Okay? And importantly, where did you hear it? Where did you hear it being played? You can use words like intro, verse, chorus. All right? You can say section A, section B. You can say, we hear this being played after the whatever instrument plays, that's where you hear it. So what you're basically doing is listening to something and making an observation about whereabouts in the song you hear it being played. Think of structure. So where did you hear it being played? Where in the structure of the piece? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. This will make a bit more sense when we put it into context, right? So, let me close that. Let me close that. Here we go. 5 questions. What is it? What is it doing? What is its role? How does it sound? Where do you hear it being played? So that's the hit list.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's use this in an example. So let's go example. And the song I had loaded up was, this is from our Music of a Culture. We had, let's go with El Condor Pasa. El Condor Pasa. What's a condor? Big bird. Yeah. Pasa means go by. Now, this is a really good test with this particular song because it's probably got instruments that you're unfamiliar with. But I can tell you that this is a Latin American piece of music. It's an Andean piece of music, so I'm not sure if it's from Bolivia or Chile or Colombia, but in that region of the world. And some of the instruments that they use are... Actually, you know what? Let me just quickly bring some up. And that way you've got an idea. We've got things like pan flutes. We've got things like a flute, a wooden flute called a kenna. Now, unless you've studied that type of instruments before and you understand them, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to rattle them off the top of your head. I've known them since I was a kid, so I'm sort of familiar with them. But if you're not familiar with them, it's like me trying to explain to you the Arabic instruments and I've never played them before, or the Irish instruments or whatever. Okay? But if I simply look up Andean folk music, right, and let me bring up some images so that I can show you the different types of instruments that they have. Okay, so here's one example, right, where they've got pan flutes. Remember that with a pan flute, each pipe is a different note. A really common instrument is the guitar, and one of the instruments that you might remember from our talk before, that little tiny guitar was made by a little animal called a armadillo, and that's the charango. So these are really common instruments. In addition to that, you'll often see them with rattles. So they might have rattles tied to their legs, so that way they can stomp their feet at the same time as playing to create a percussive effect. Sometimes you see them with these types of drums. But there's all sorts of different types of instruments that are being used. And this piece of music that we're going to listen to comes from that. Let's listen to a little section of it, and then we're going to go through and answer the hit list. Right, so here we go. Here's the beginning of it. Okay, and that's probably enough to analyze it. Let's just do that little bit there. That's from the very beginning, so yeah. So, here we go. Let's start again. I want you to focus on the very first instrument that you hear. Okay, here it goes. Just that little bit. Before the other instruments come in, yeah? One more time. Here we go. Alright, let's do the hit list. Does anyone know what instrument it is? It sounds like a recorder, it sounds like a flute, it's wooden. Do you know what it's called? That thing in the photo, one of these ones? Yeah, so no, it's not the pan flute comes in later. That's actually like a big version. It's these here, they're like a wooden flute. In fact, it's more accurate, this one here. Is that the one you're pointing to? Yeah. That one there. It's like a cane flute.
Yeah, but what is it called?
Right, the name of it is called, it's actually there, Kenna. Q-U-E-N-A. Kenna. Now, the likelihood of you knowing a Kenna, unless you've played one before, right, is going to be difficult. But you can still describe it in terms of our hit list. So let's go back over to here. And let's start. Question number 1. What is it? It's a Kenna. But if we don't know that it's a Kenna, right, you can say it's an aerophone, or you can say it's a flute, right? You can even say it's a flute-sounding instrument, right, because it sounds like a flute. In fact, that's what it is. Someone said wooden, so you can say it's a wooden flute. So this is where, if you know the style, you can say, hey, this is a Kenna, I know this instrument, I identify with it. If not, go for the next best thing, right? Describe where it belongs. If you were using string, brass, woodwind, percussion, what would it fit under there? If you were looking at these classifications of whether it's string, woodwind, brass, percussion, what would you classify it? Woodwind, yeah. So let's go to woodwind, I'll just minimize that. So you could even say it's a woodwind instrument. Alright, but it's a Kenna. Question number 2. What is it doing?
It's playing in High, short notes.
Okay, so it's playing high, short notes, or mainly short notes, because it kind of goes something like that. So playing high, high pitched. You can say it's mainly short notes. All right, look, I'll play it for you again. Here we go, just that little bit. Just that little bit there.
It's like wavering.
Okay, let's. Okay, right at the end, there's like a little bit of vibrato. Okay, so you can say playing high pitch, mainly short notes, a little vibrato on the long notes. Is it, you know how you're hearing it, are the notes generally going up or generally going down or generally staying in the middle?
Yeah, sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down.
If you're going to graph it, where does it start? Like, does it start here? Does it go...
No, it goes higher.
It goes higher?
Yeah.
All right. Have a listen to it again. Is it going higher?
And it stays.
All right, so that little bit, moving upwards,
And
and then it stays on that note before the other instruments come in.
Yeah.
What do we call it when something moves upwards? Crescendo is in volume. What's the musical word to describe movement upwards? Starts with A. Ascending. Yeah, ascend. When we die, we'll ascend into heaven. Most of us will.
I thought that was...
Some of you might descend, right? But hopefully you ascend. So, it's high-pitched, mainly short notes, a little vibrato on the long notes. It's mainly ascending. Not every single note goes up, but because some of them drop down, but it's mainly ascending. Okay, so we've spoken about what is it? We know it's a canna. What is it doing? We described the whole heap of things here. What is its role? Is it melodic or harmonic at the moment? Sorry, melodic or accompaniment?
Yeah.
Melodic. It's got the main melody. Are there any other instruments? No. So it's melodic. Has a melodic role. What do you call it when there's only one layer of sound? Do you know the word? Poly means many. So like a polygon has got many. Homophonic means that you've got a melody and an accompaniment. Monophonic.
Yeah.
Mono means one. All right, we'll look at this in a bit more detail with texture. But this is where we start to tie in all the concepts, right? It's melodic. It's actually monophonic texture, which means there is one layer of sound. You might even you could have 15 instruments, but they're all playing the same thing. They're still only providing one layer of sound. All right? Monophonic texture at that point. So what is its role? It's melodic and it's monophonic. How does it sound? How does it sound? Let me bring up this tone color sheet. Where's my tone color sheet? Tone color words. Here. All right. You've seen this list before. It's in your booklet. All right. What are some words to describe the sound of that instrument? Bright, clear. You could say pure. What did you say, Neve? Airy. Is it breathy?
No, because there's no breathing.
How do they blow into the instrument? With thought. All right. So okay, airy. Let's just pick those ones. Airy. What did you say? Airy, bright, clear. Let's just stick with that.
Oh, is that piercing?
Yeah, you could say it's. I think piercing is more. You know, when you hear a trumpet and it's really cutting across the top of everything. You wouldn't be inaccurate in describing it that way. All right, but let's just stick with those ones for the moment. So we said it sounds. What was it?
Bright, airy, and
Okay, bright. Oops, airy, clear. Think tone color words. So you've got to build up your vocabulary of tone color words. Airy, clear. What are we up to on the hit list? Where did you hear it? Where do we hear it being played?
Yeah.
Intro? You could say in the beginning, at the start, in the opening. Okay? So, if we have a look at this, but remember that this is only for the first instrument that we hear. We haven't even listened to the rest of the song, but it doesn't matter because you can pick any instrument or any groups of instruments and go through the same hit list questions and come up with a similar result. Now look at this. What is it? It's a kenna. If you don't know that it's a kenna, we can say it's an aerophone or a flute sounding instrument or a wooden flute or a woodwind something or other. Question 2, what is it doing? It's playing high-pitched, mainly short notes. There's a little vibrato on the long notes and it's mainly ascending. What is its role? It's monophonic, melodic. How does it sound? It sounds bright, airy, clear. Where do you hear it being played? Intro, beginning, start, opening, whatever you want to refer to it. Now, this is how you put it together. Because in an oral question, you normally don't do a whole mind map to answer this. But let's say the question was something like, discuss the use of the instruments in this piece of music. All right? Or it might say, it could almost ask anything and you could still answer it. It could say, describe the role of the instruments. Okay? It might even say, with reference to tone color, how does the composer use interest in this piece of music? It could almost be anything. And this is what you do to put it together. So we're going to get all this information and we're going to write our first dot point as an answer. So your answer might be, I'll do it over here, but I'll do it in a different color so it sticks out. Let's do purple. Actually, no, green, so it'll jump out more. All right. Yes, but it's more about understanding how these hit list questions. Oh, you want to make up one right now?
Yeah, so we can answer that question.
Okay, so let's go. Discuss the use of performing media in this example. What's performing media? Just instruments?
Like everything.
Anything you hear. Right, performing media is a fancy word for instruments. You think of media is anything, right, that is performing. So in musical terms, it's whatever's making a sound. You could be like rattling your pen and using that to create a percussion thing, and so that would be an example of performing media because it's something that's performing.
Yeah, but it's like a banging maybe.
Could be banging the table,
Or maybe they could be
whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
it would work. So discuss the use of performing media in this example. And the first thing that you write, or the first observation might be, let's put all of this together. Do you want to use kenna or do you want to use, let's use flute sounding instrument. Let's assume that we didn't have Google, because you won't, and that we could look it up. So let's say a flute sounding instrument is heard at the beginning of the piece. And what is it doing? We're going to say it's playing high-pitched, mainly short notes. Playing high-pitched, mainly short notes in an ascending direction. A flute-sounding instrument is heard at the beginning of the piece, playing high-pitched, mainly short notes. Maybe you should say high-pitched, comma, mainly short notes, comma, in an ascending direction. But we haven't done the rest of the hit list yet, so let's add the rest of it. We're going to say it has a melodic roll. It has a melodic roll, and you can say in a monophonic texture, and sounds, what have we got? Bright, airy, and clear. Bright, airy, and clear. We might even say at the end of the long notes, you hear a little vibrato, right? Let's add that. At the end of the long notes, we can hear a little vibrato. Does that make sense? And that becomes dot point 1. That's only for that instrument at that one point in time. Okay, so let's go through. I'll make this a bit smaller so we can see what's happening. A flute sounding instrument is heard at the beginning of the piece playing high-pitched, mainly short notes in an ascending direction. It has a melodic roll in a monophonic texture and sounds bright, airy and clear. At the end of the long notes, we can hear a little vibrato. All right, have we answered? What is it? Yes, because let me just move this. I need to move this so that I can get it closer to here so we can see it. Come over here. All right, and I'll make this a bit smaller. There we go. Okay, what is it? It's a flute-sounding instrument. What is it doing? It's playing high-pitched, mainly short notes in an ascending direction. What is its role? It's a melodic roll playing in a monophonic texture. How does it sound? It sounds bright, airy, and clear. Where did you hear it? A flute sounding instrument is heard at the beginning. So have we answered everything in the hit list? All right. If you filled up your 2 pages with observations of that detail, it would be very difficult to not give you excellent marks for it, because you're answering everything that's there. Here, this is what students will sometimes do. They'll say there is a flute sounding instrument, or they'll say they'll do this: a flute sounding instrument is heard. All right, is it correct? But it hasn't got detail. That's the difference. So the way for you to get marks in oral is detail. You have to give detail, lots of detail. One way to check that you're giving detail is use the hit list. It's pretty good, isn't it?
Where did you come up with this?
I don't know. It was just a brilliant moment. But I remember going through it again. I'd done it before and then forgot about it. And then I did it again with Jessica, because Jessica said, what do I need to write? I need more detail about what to write. And I said, oh, okay, you should try this. And as I was doing it, I thought, oh, this is gold. This is oral gold. Put it in the gold treasure box. Yeah. So if you, now given, you need to know what the concepts are, right? But if you know what the concepts are and you don't know how to write about them, then you're still stuck. But this can become 1 dot point. Do you want to do another one, or are you happy with that? We'll leave it at that? Yeah? All right. What you need to do is, it doesn't matter what piece of music it is, play it, pick an instrument or pick a group of instruments like the percussion instruments. Let me give you a super quick example. So I'll load up Gloria Estefan's Higher. Quick example, right? Let's just listen to the first 10 seconds.
Here we go now.
Okay, just that bit. Just that bit. Ignore the voice right at the beginning. Okay?
Here we go now.
Now. Alright. Let's go through the hit list. Just talking about it, okay? What is it? What do you hear? Percussion. Be specific. What types of percussion do you hear? Drums. Shaker. Maracas. You know what? It doesn't even matter if you're a little bit off. The examiners look at it and go, yes, you understood that it's a group of percussion instruments. So you might say, what is it? Percussion. You could say maracas, shakers, bongos, congas, drums. Yeah, there's a cowbell that comes in there. Okay. What is it doing?
It's making the very fast.
Is it one instrument or is it lots of instruments? Lots of instruments. Is each instrument playing its own little repeated pattern? Right. What do you call it when it's a repeated pattern? Riff, or what's the other word? Starts with O. Ostinato. So you could say, what is it? You list all those different percussion instruments. What are they doing? Each instrument is playing its own ostinato that when combined together, what are they doing? Creating a dance rhythm. Yeah, a fast-paced dance rhythm. So we just describe what its role is. It's creating a rhythmic accompaniment. Right? We haven't got a melody yet, but that's probably going to sit in the background. How does it sound? What are some words to describe how it sounds? Is it strong?
Yeah, powerful.
Powerful, you could say. What else? Metallic. Some of the instruments sound metallic, like the cowboy, you could say sounds metallic, but not all of them. Sometimes you look at, okay, you could say percussive, hollow, rumbling, sounds like a big rumble, okay? Any one of those words are going to be okay. And to finish up with, where did you hear it? Right at the beginning? After she says her little, here we go now. So, this is how you could answer that, right? Same question. After the female singer says, here we go now, in the introduction, I've just answered where I hear it, we hear a series of percussion instruments that include the maracas, the bongos, the conga drums, the shakers, the whatever. Each instrument is playing its own ostinato pattern or its own repeated pattern. And together they create a rhythmic accompaniment that sounds percussive, hollow, what were the other words? Powerful and strong. I've just answered all of those in that one or two short sentences. That was my next dot point. It's pretty good, isn't it? Because if you only say, what is it, and you don't answer these ones, you're not given the detail. Now, the thing to remember is that you have to put it into context of what the question is asking. That's an important thing to remember. But what is it? What is it doing? What is its role? How does it sound? Where did you hear it? That's it. All right, I'll put this up on Edmodo Girls for you.